Welcome to part 2 of the top 20 changes in omissions from the Harry Potter movies. If you haven't seen part 1, why the hell not, dickhead? Click here, you bell. Doing things backwards. If not, good on you, watch on.
One of the things that always set Harry apart from his peers was his fearless use of the Dark Lord's name. Realising this, Voldemort placed a taboo curse on his own name, meaning that anyone who uses it can be immediately found. This is why two Death Eaters knew exactly where Harry, Ron and Hermione had fled to after the attack on Bill and Fleur's wedding. A clever tactic considering only Voldemort's greatest enemies were brave enough to utter his name.
Something that the films failed to mention is the fact that the prophecy could have referred to one of two boys. The criteria to become the chosen one includes being born at the end of July and having parents that have thwarted Voldemort on 3 occasions. This came to be Harry, but could just as easily have been Neville Longbottom, and the only reason the prophecy came true at all is because Voldemort himself believed it, and took it to mean Harry. Snape would never forgive himself for revealing the prophecy he had overheard to his master when he learned who Voldemort had targeted.
Have you ever wondered why the Potter family had the invisibility cloak, one of the 3 Deathly Hallows? A small but interesting detail not mentioned in the films is that the Potter family is descended from the longest living Peveril brother, Ignotus. This is why Harry and Hermione find the symbol for the Deathly Hallows on a grave so near to his parents' headstone in Godric's Hollow.
Time for a history lesson, kids! In the films we get the impression that there is more to Dumbledore than meets the eye. Transformer! Beneath this quirky funny father figure lies a much darker story. Growing up in a small village with his parents and younger siblings, Aberforth and Ariana, would prove tragic for the Dumbledore family when a group of Muggle boys, who were shocked to find Ariana performing magic, attacked her in fear. The attack mentally scarred Ariana, drastically affecting her magical abilities and stability. After attacking the Muggle boys that hurt Ariana, Percival Dumbledore was sent to Azkaban, where he eventually dies. In an effort to start afresh, Kendra Dumbledore moves her 3 children to Godric's Hollow, where Ariana was kept mostly hidden, leading to rumours that she was a prisoner in her own home. Having just graduated from Hogwarts, Albus was ready to begin his adult wizarding life, when tragedy struck again. While mostly shy and introverted, Ariana would occasionally relapse into hysteria. In a particularly nasty episode, she accidentally murders her mother Kendra, making Albus the new family guardian. Desperate to start making a difference in the world, Albus found staying at home hugely frustrating. Then his prayers were answered. Living with his great-aunt, Bathilda Bagshot, was Gellert Grindelwald. Although expelled from Durmstrang School for practicing the dark arts, Grindelwald was brilliant, and Albus considered him an intellectual equal. The two became close friends and would discuss how they would one day overturn the Statute of Secrecy, creating a world where muggles and wizards could live together openly. They also had their sights set on the Deathly Hallows. Albus knew that making this journey meant bringing Ariana with him. This angered Albus's younger brother Aberforth, who was very close to his sister. A fight broke out between the 2 brothers and Grindelwald. The violence triggered another of Ariana's episodes, and when she stepped in to help, she was suddenly struck and killed. Grindelwald fled the scene while the 2 heartbroken brothers mourned their sister. Aberforth would never forgive Albus for Ariana's death, breaking his nose at her funeral, and Albus would never forgive himself, feeling in his gut that he was directly responsible for the blast that killed her. He would later face Grindelwald again, where he would defeat his old friend and lock him in his own prison, Nurmengard. This is where Dumbledore won the Elder Wand. Dumbledore's family history would haunt him forever. His boggart became the corpse of the sister he fears he killed, and when he looks into the Mirror of Erised, he would see his family alive and well, and be redeemed in his brother's eyes.
Continuing our history lesson, we now take a look at Lord Voldemort. While his time at Hogwarts is pretty well covered, his family history is relatively unexplored. A descendant of Salazar Slytherin, Marvolo Gaunt, lived in squalor. His only item of value was Salazar Slytherin's ring. He lived with his daughter Merope, who he treated with abuse and cruelty, making her little more than a slave. Her miserable existence was somewhat relieved when her father and equally brutish brother, Morfin, were sent to Azkaban. It was at this point that she fell in love with a muggle, Tom Riddle Sr. Using love potions, she duped Riddle into marrying her, and Merope soon fell pregnant. Hoping that Riddle would have fallen in love with her by now, she stopped administering him these potions. She was mistaken, and Riddle left, returning to his parents, leaving her with child. Living on the streets of London, pregnant, she sold her only valuable, Slytherin's locket, for 10 galleons. Eventually she stumbles upon an orphanage whilst in labour. Mrs. Cole takes her in and delivers the child. Merope asks for him to be named Tom Marvolo Riddle, after his grandfather and father. She sadly died shortly after. Whilst well looked after at the orphanage, growing up without a mother's love made him cruel and bitter. He did not get on well with his peers from whom he stole, and on one occasion during a seaside holiday, he lured 2 of his fellow orphans into a cave where he did something which would affect them for life. His Hogwarts life was equally sinister. He would unlock the Chamber of Secrets and frame Hagrid for the crime, and began plotting his path to immortality. Using his charm and charisma, he learned of the Horcruxes from Professor Slughorn. Warned of splitting one's soul just once did not deter Tom, who planned to make 7, believing this to be the most powerful number. Tom's ego meant that he had to choose items of particular value to host his soul. His first was his diary. Using his middle name, he traced his mother's bloodline back to the Gaunt Shack. All he found there was a crazed Morphin who told him he looked like the Muggle boy, his father. Studying morphing and stealing his wand, Tom headed for the Riddle house, where he murdered his father and grandparents with Morphin's wand. Planting the wand back on Morphin's person and modifying his memory into believing he was guilty, he found and stole the ring of Salazar Slytherin. This would become another Horcrux. Another was Slytherin's locket, which he hid in the same cave he attacked the children from the orphanage. Despite all of this, the only one who suspected him of anything was Albus Dumbledore. When he graduated Hogwarts, Tom requested the position for Defence Against the Dark Arts teacher. The headmaster, Armando Dippet, was delighted with the request but turned him down due to his age, suggesting he try again in a few years. Tom would, but this time Dumbledore would be headmaster, and knowing about his recent activities regarding the formation of the Death Eaters and the taking the new name of Lord Voldemort, he was refused the position. Ever since, the post had been cursed, and no teacher could hold the job for more than a year. Before we enter our top 5, here are 4 points that we think deserve a mention that didn't quite make the top 20. When a wizard dies to protect someone else, the person that they protect then has a sacrificial charm placed on them. This is why when Harry goes to die in the forest willingly, he places this charm on everyone at Hogwarts. This is the reason no one dies thereafter.
In the extended cut of the Philosopher's Stone, Snape explains to Harry that a bezoar is a stone found in the stomach of a goat that will cure you from most poisons. Harry uses this information many years later to save Ron from the poison in the Half-Blood Prince. Unfortunately, if you've only ever seen the theatrical cut of the first film, you'll never know where Harry got this information from.
A fun character that was cut from the films was Peeves the Poltergeist, who was going to be played by Rick Mayall. He even got as far as filming a few of the scenes before it was cut.
A touching scene in the book that didn't make the cut was Harry's final goodbyes with the Dursleys. In the book, Dudley stops to shake Harry's hand, thanking him for saving his life, and they part ways as friends. A version was even filmed but ended up on the cutting room floor.
Artifact from Mr. Potter. Take a look, Lupin. It's supposed to be your area of expertise.
And indeed it was. Keen-eyed viewers will notice that Pettigrew is referred to as Wormtail. Yes, the same Wormtail that helped write the Marauders map. But who were the other 3 messes, and why was it written? You actually see all but one of the Marauders in the film. Padfoot was Sirius Black's nickname, due to his dog form, and Moony was Remus Lupin, referencing his being a werewolf. The last of the 4 is actually Harry's dad James, who could turn into a stag, hence his name Prongs. But why is it that they needed to become animagus, especially while they were still at school? To help Lupin cope with his lycanthropy, Dumbledore arranged for Lupin to make a monthly visit to the Shrieking Shack while he transformed. Upon learning about their friend's condition, James, Sirius and Peter all became unregistered animagus in order to keep him company while he transformed. This is where Harry's Patronus comes from, mimicking his dad's animal form. Another unregistered animagus was Rita Skeeter, who would use the form of a beetle to gather dirt on her subjects for her stories.
Right, this one is the gapiest of plot holes in the film. This fucking mirror. This one right here, where the fuck did this come from? Well, I'll tell you where it came from. It was a birthday present given to Harry by Sirius for his 15th. This was a 2-way mirror that Harry could use to speak with him, or whoever might end up having Sirius's part of the mirror. Speaking of which, after Sirius's death, Mundungus Fletcher ransacked Grimmauld Place, taking Sirius's mirror and ended up selling it to Aberforth Dumbledore. Realising that the mirror was not capable of communicating with Sirius after his death, Harry smashed his, keeping the shards with him thereafter.
One of the questions that everyone always asks is why does Dumbledore send Harry back to the bastard Dursleys year after year after year? This is all down to the sacrificial charm that Lily placed on Harry. An extension of this charm is the bond of blood, explained in the letter Dumbledore left for the Dursleys. By willingly accepting Harry into their home, the Dursleys household takes on the protection Lily placed on Harry, thanks to her sister Petunia, whose blood makes this possible. Helpfully, Dumbledore waits 5 years before explaining to Harry why he has to put up with their bullshit every summer. Still, it could be worse. He could be sent to live with the Fritzels every summer.
Surely one of the most useful abilities, even in the magical world of Harry Potter, is fucking time travel. Such an ability could have prevented all sorts of shit from hitting the fan. Such as this. And this. And this. And this. And this. And these. And this. Well, that's because they're more restricted than you might think. The most a time turner can travel is 5 hours into the past, and not at all into the future. This is considered the safest amount of time anyone can travel by the Ministry of Magic. On top of which, the application process is quite extensive. You can't simply go down to your local Claire's Accessories and buy one. They are kept within the Department of Mysteries, and have been rendered useless thanks to the battle that occurred there in Harry's 5th year. They were knocked off a shelf, and due to the way they turned as they fell, they are stuck in a perpetual time loop, consistently falling and resetting endlessly.
The biggest, most glaring omission of all was how the feck did Harry once again survive a full-on, no bullshit, clean blast to the face from a killing curse in the forest. Right, this can sound confusing, so we'll word this as best we can. There are a few theories, but the one considered canon goes back to the graveyard scene in Goblet of Fire, when Voldemort used Harry's blood to resurrect himself. Doing this meant that despite the sacrificial charm Lily placed on Harry expiring earlier that year, it lived on in Voldemort, meaning that as long as the Dark Lord still lived, so did the protection charm, and Harry couldn't be killed. A lucky break, as without this error of judgment from Voldemort, Harry would have been brown bread no matter what.
As always guys, we hope you enjoyed this, and if you could give us a like and subscribe, it really helps. If you think we missed anything out, please comment below, and see you in the next one.
Bye.